last Friday, 500 cattle were rejected. Ian Seymour, Sky News, West Hartree, North Somerset.
Well, joining me now in the studio is science and hygiene expert Brian Ford, who's written a book about BSE. Good evening to you, Brian.
Evening.
We've heard Douglas Hogg say today that in fact standards are improving and that the recent reports have been misleading. Have they been misleading?
Let's stick to the facts. The facts on the basis of the reports that your viewers have just seen are that hundreds of cattle are at this moment being rejected for low standards. The facts are that the regulations are not being followed. Mr. Hogg says that the government has introduced standards of inspection in order to raise matters. Well, if this is the standard to which they've been raised, what have they been like in the past few years?
But if lots of carcasses aren't being passed, that's good, isn't it? The consumer's being protected.
Only in the sense that lots of carcasses are turning up in very bad condition. There have been food hygiene regulations since Victorian times. There's nothing new about this. But this particular moment in our history means that we are, for the first time for centuries, facing new diseases. Laurie, we have for the last 200 years been eliminating diseases, but now with chlamydia, hysteria, cryptosporidium, E. coli 0157, BSE and the rest, we are suddenly, because of current policies, being submitted to diseases which a decade ago people had hardly heard of.
Now, the government has cut the number of vets who go around inspecting meat, haven't they? In 1979 it was 600, now there are only 300. We've got people complaining that they can't do their job properly because of intimidation. They get their cars damaged, they're threatened with knives. Things have come to a pretty pass, haven't they?
It's an extraordinary situation. What bothers me is that I keep thinking that, we've had people dying because of the results of these policies. People dying horribly because this is E. coli 0157 kills in a particularly nasty way. Now, you would think that the finger would be pointed at whichever official was responsible, but it hasn't been. I honestly think that Mr. Mayer keeps thinking, well, in some way we can carry on muddling through till May. If only the ministry and the ministers had put their fingers on those responsible and actually sacked people, actually said there is problems.
Well, people have been sacked recently. 45 inspectors have been sacked for not doing a good job.
Absolutely so. But if those in charge of the system at ministerial level had been sacked, the public might feel that there was some integrity in government. At the moment, I don't think the public do.
But of course, the government is saying, look, 2 years ago we set up this meat hygiene service to standardise things and make things better, and they're talking now about having a hygiene league table so the 460 abattoirs can all kind of compete and raise their standards. Are these moves in the right direction or not?
Before the hygiene inspectors, nobody was dying in any significant numbers of E. coli 0157. 18 months after it, they're dying in their dozens.
So what can be done now to restore public confidence and make sure that we're all safe?
Only one thing, and I would actually put a challenge to an incoming Labour administration should they win the election. They need to promise the public that in future there will be no secrecy about science. There will be no secrecy about new diseases. People say, well, if we open the floodgates, then the public would be surrounded by scares. But until recent policies were invoked, there was no flood because there were no gates.
So very briefly, Brian, this potential time bomb, as it was called by the General Secretary of the Meat Inspectors, can be defused.
We are being bequeathed a mountain of infectivity. And until the public know the facts, rather than being merely reassured